Welcome back to the Photographer's Dining Table. I'm Doug King. For some while now, I've been searching for a suitable filter system that I can use to get the very most out of my splendid little 17mm tilt shift lens. Judging by the amount of discussion on internet forums that I came across while researching this, I think quite a few other people are searching for a similar solution, and I thought I'd share what I've learned so far. The problem with the tilt shift lenses is that in order to cast a big enough image circle, you end up with this very large bulbous front element. And that means bringing a filter up to the front element is very, very difficult. And because of that, the manufacturers didn't even bother to cut filter attachment threads. The only means of attachment you've got are these plastic bayonet blades, which are designed to fix the extremely unwieldy lens cap necessary to cover this front element. Now, for many years, of course, the go-to filter system for photographers has been the Lee system. This is very, very well established with an extraordinary range of attachments and gadgets to modify the light entering your lens. And of course, as a standard 100mm system, takes filters not just from Lee, but a wide range of manufacturers. The filter holder itself is made from some kind of injection molded plastic. I'm not sure which plastic, but it's very stiff and strong whilst being lightweight. Of course, the 100mm system is always going to be a problem with a very, very wide angle lens like this because it's going to induce some vignetting, and we'll look at that in a moment. Lee do make a 150mm filter system which is designed for ultra wide angle lenses, but in my researches I was unable to come up with an understanding of how that fitted to the lens barrel, and the adapter ring looked to be quite flimsy and maybe even attaching permanently to part of the lens barrel, which is going to stop me from putting my lens hood back on, something I didn't seem to be very happy with. If anybody can correct me on these assumptions, then please do so. So I've had the 100mm holder system for about 10 years now, use it widely on my other lenses, but Lee fortunately make a special adapter for the tilt shift lens, even though of course they acknowledge that this will lead to some vignetting. The adapter ring is extremely well made. It's just as well made as the rest of the Lee system components. This is in machined aluminium, and it's been assembled out of several pieces in order to get clearly the assembly and best fit. It snugs over the lens barrel really beautifully and gives you a fully supported fit even before it's locked into place. It twists onto the bayonet fixings and locates positively. This gives you a lot of confidence. The weight of the filter system is supported directly on the lens barrel, and the bayonet leaves are being used exactly for what they should be, which is to provide the final secure fixing. A very nice system. The problem, of course, is that in order to bring the flat-based filter holder forwards of the objective, this has to be quite deep, and therefore is going to restrict the ability of the lens's side view and will induce vignetting at some point in the shifting function. The filter holder attaches to the adapter using 3 2 fixed and 1 mobile little dovetail lugs which notch into the dovetail notch around the adapter. And that gives you a tight, snug fit, which is light tight, but still allows the holder to rotate on the adapter. Some people say there's a problem with the Lee system, and that because of the dovetail lugs, it is possible to knock the filter holder off the front of your lens. But that does take a bit of a force, and I think you'd have to be fairly clumsy to really worry about that in the field. So that's the Lee filter holder system. We'll come back to the vignetting issues in a moment. The wide angle filter alternative that I've settled on further to my researches is made by Lucroit, who are a Spanish manufacturer. This is not of the build quality of the Lee system. The plastic of the filter holder is very light, and for something of this size is actually very flimsy, which allows the whole thing to twist and rotate under any small amount of pressure. I think that's probably necessary because of the way that it attaches to the adapter. But it doesn't fill you with confidence, particularly given that this is a 65mm system. The filters are very big compared to the 100mm filters, quite heavy and extremely expensive. For a filter holder system which is at least as expensive, more expensive than the Lee system, I would have hoped for something with a better build quality to inspire confidence that it was giving the best protection of all to my filters. The adapter ring for the 17mm TSE is cast aluminium, and it's been left with this rough finish, excuse me, almost as if it's just been painted rather than hard anodized. Again, it's a bit rudimentary. It doesn't fill me with the same confidence in the design and engineering that the Lee system does. The lens attachment also is not as secure as I would have liked or expected. There is simply a continuous groove machined around the inside of the adapter ring, into which has been seated a large O-ring, rubber O-ring, and there's a couple of cutouts for the bayonet blades to marry up with. When you fit it to the lens, it's not actually a snug fit. It's kind of loose and wobbly. It's not concentric on the lens, which means that if you don't tighten it up carefully, it is possible to leave a light gap at the perimeter. And when you do twist it onto the bayonets, you can feel that the action of fixing is actually simply the plastic bayonet blades on the lens barrel biting into that rubber O-ring. So in fact, all of the load of your filter system is going to be carried onto the plastic bayonet blades, which were initially designed just to secure the lens cap in place. Again, it doesn't fill me with confidence, and I would have expected something a little bit more well engineered, given that this component alone has a list price of €110. Nevertheless, we are here, and I'm learning to use this system. I'm gradually becoming a little bit more accustomed to how to fit it to my lens securely, how to take it off again. And I'm sure I will get used to it. The filter holder then simply snaps into a dovetail groove here with these 4 lugs around the perimeter. Sometimes it's a bit of an effort to snap it into place. Other times it goes in quite easily, just depends on how you line it up. Sometimes it's a bit awkward given the size. Once it's in place, it can rotate in the groove of the adapter, but it's a very tight fit, given that something's just happened that I was going to demonstrate in a moment. Because of the rough cast finish of the adapter ring, there's a lot of friction between the filter holder frame and the adapter ring. And that means if you're trying to rotate the frame on the ring, you're just as likely to undo the ring on the lens, and then the whole thing falls off. So as I say, it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, and I certainly won't be using this in any awkward situations or any adventurous situations. Fortunately, this is intended primarily to use for architectural shoots where the conditions are going to be a lot more controlled. But what this means is that probably I'm not going to get rid of my Lee system simply because I want the option of having a simple and secure system for use in some situations. I had intended originally to sell the Lee system second-hand in order to part-fund this, but I don't have enough confidence in this system yet to get rid of the Lee system altogether. So that's the construction and the fixing and the fitting of these components. I took a walk outside with my camera yesterday afternoon to have a look at the vignetting issues in some more detail. I went out and I tried to find a location that would be typical for the use of a tilt-shift lens. Now, typically to get a composition, you'd have to tilt the camera backwards, which with a wide-angle lens gives converging verticals. The shift lens advantage is keeping the verticals vertical whilst allowing you to compose the image the way that you want it. This is the Lee frame and adapter ring already mated together, going onto the lens. I've put the lens into the vertical orientation here, and I've put the adapter into a vertical orientation as well. As we shift the lens relative to the sensor axis, you can see the vignetting becomes apparent at about 5mm of shift, and by the time you get to the full shift of 12mm, it's completely dominating the frame. This is the Lucroit holder and adapter ring, again mated together, going onto the lens and orientated in the vertical as before. Shifting the Lucroit assembly shows no vignetting whatsoever. So that's the result that we're looking for shooting with wide-angle lenses on a shift basis. So the Lucroit system is completely free of vignetting, and the Lee system demonstrates some fairly significant vignetting at even moderate levels of shift. However, if you're only going to be using your tilt-shift lens for tilt in landscape, for perspective, for depth of field control, and maybe only a few degrees of shift, or if you're able to crop your images in order to remove the vignetting, then the Lee system can work reasonably well with the tilt-shift lens. In fact, I've been using it like that for a number of years now. We need to have a look at the filters because this may significantly affect your decision regarding these two systems. First off, the 165mm system involves more than 2.5 times as much glass as the 100mm system. That may be a significant consideration for you if you want to travel with this system. There are plenty of filter pouches that I'm perfectly confident to put 100mm glass filters into and travel extensively. Although Format High Tech do make pouches for their Firecrest larger sized filters, I'm yet to feel entirely confident as to how I'm going to stiffen those pouches enough to protect a piece of glass that big and therefore that brittle. Anyway, if we're going to use filter systems like this, then at some point inevitably we're going to want to play with long exposures, so we need to have a think about the light tightness of the construction as well. Both filter frames marry up to their adapter rings with a light tight lapped connection, so I don't have any problems about light leakage through the connection there. Now the notches that hold the filter in place can play a big role in how light tight the overall assembly is. These are full height, full size, so that when I slide a filter into place, the edges of the filter are going to be completely light tight, but there is a significant gap around the perimeter I can show that up for you a little bit more clearly by putting some light inside, and hopefully it always goes with live demonstrations. I'm not sure if you can see or not, but there is a significant amount of light leakage through the perimeter of the frame. I'm going to have to deal with that. Fortunately, I have some gasket material which I'm going to attach to the filter frame so that I can use the same light tightening with a whole number of filters rather than attaching the gasket to individual filters. That's a snug fit, and maybe I'll show you the light tightness of that after I've fitted those gaskets. The Lee system, on the other hand, the support notches for the filters are not even full size to the frame, and the frame, in order to reduce its weight, has got these cutouts at the corners. That means that in order to maintain light tightness with their filter systems, this is the Lee Big Stopper, Lee have attached gaskets directly to the filters themselves. That gasket goes in face down, and it does just about marry up with the circle of the frame and adapter inside. It's quite location sensitive. It doesn't take more than a few millimeters of displacement before that light seal breaks down. You can see there, you can see both sides of the gasket on the left-hand side as you're looking at it, and that means there's a light leak. What's more significant, I think, actually, is if I flip that filter over now and we look at the position of the gasket relative to the frame opening. Now, if you recall that we were getting vignetting with this frame and adapter combination at about 6 degrees of shift, if I put the gasket into place, you can see actually that the when the filter's centered, that the gasket itself projects into the image circle. And that means that the vignetting with a deep neutral density filter like the Big Stopper on the Lee system is going to be much worse than it is just with the filter frame and adapter on its own. I did test this out, and the vignetting due to the gasket becomes apparent at about 3 degrees of shift. So I'm afraid, folks, if you have got a Lee system, you're not going to be able to do extremely shifted architectural shots with lovely streaky clouds. You're going to have to limit yourselves to using the lens as a straightforward wide-angle lens. So there we are. If you, as I have been, want to use the tilt-shift lens with its tilt feature for increasing depth of field in landscape photographs, but you're not too worried about the shift, then probably the Lee system will suit you very well indeed, because it's quite compact. There are dozens of manufacturers who make 100mm filters that you can use with the Lee filter frame, and it's secure enough and robust enough and tough enough to use out in the field in all sorts of situations. However, if you want to extend your repertoire into architectural photography with long exposure times, then I don't think that the Lee system is going to work at all in that situation. You're going to need the bigger glass coverage just in order to get the wide angle view from the lens to allow you to use the shift function. I'm going to now spend some time getting to know my Lucroit system, and maybe I'll update you in a few weeks or months when I know more. So, I'm Doug King. This has been a discussion over the photographer's dining table, and I look forward to getting together with you again sometime soon.